Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the third workshop on the Global Conference on Fraternity, Ukhuwah Insaniah, Building Bridge for Human Solidarity. It is an honor for me, Ricky Zulian, to be the Master of Ceremony for today's agenda. As you may also be aware of, our agenda today is the continuation of the first and second workshop of our workshop series, which was held yesterday. Our workshop series last time was a fruitful discussion under the theme of confronting intolerance, religious extremism, and violence. The second one is the role of the family in instilling tolerance and peace. And today, we will have another insightful discussion or workshop under the theme, or let's say it is the most famous theme in the last 2 years. Our theme for today is maintaining human solidarity in the post-pandemic era. And for that, we would like to invite our dear friend from Duta Wacana Christian University, Indonesia. He is Dr. Joseph Hehanusa. For Dr. Joseph, the time is yours.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be a moderator in this third session. Good afternoon, speaker and discussant, ladies and gentlemen. As mentioned by Master of Ceremony, we will continue our global conference on Fraternity, Ukhuwah Insaniah, Building Bridges for Human Solidarity. Personally, I thank you, committee, to organize such important and interesting conference related to the important issue in area of peace and solidarity. After discussing issue on religious extremism and violence, and then continue to family in instilling tolerance and peace, today, in our third session of this global conference, we will discuss another important topic, namely maintaining human solidarity in the post-pandemic era. Today, we have two speakers and two discussants. Our two speakers will be Associate Professor Zulfikar Amir from NTU Singapore, and then the second speaker will be Associate Professor Dr. Sukre Langpute from Fatoni University, Thailand. And then first discussant will be Dr. Albertus Bagus Laksono from Faculty of Theology, Sanata Dharma University. And then the second discussant will be Dr. Nor Sudiati from Indonesia Institute of the Arts, Yogyakarta. I want to explain our process that we will start with a presentation from our speakers. Each speaker will speak about 30 minutes. And after that, we will continue to our discussant. Each discussant will present their response or their idea about 5 to 7 minutes. And after that, we will discuss, or I will open discussion for participant and speakers and discussant. For participant, you can raise your question by writing the questions in chat rooms, or those who are in YouTube or follow the conference from YouTube, you can also write your question in comment in YouTube, and we will pass your question to speakers and discussant. Before we welcome Associate Professor Zulfikar Amir from NTU Singapore, I want to introduce our speaker. Dr. Zulfikar Amir is an associate professor of science, technology, and society in the School of Social Science, Nanyang Theological University, Singapore. His research interests include science and technology studies, development, globalizations, disaster, risk, resilience, and infrastructure and city studies. He is the author of the Technological State in Indonesia, the Constitution of High Technology and Authoritarian Politics. For another informations that our first speaker, Dr. Zulfikar Amir, finished his study in bachelor degree from ITB, Institut Teknologi Bandung, and doctoral degree from America. I wouldn't want to spend our time just to introduce our speakers. So let us welcome our Associate Professor Zulfikar Amir to share his opinion about this topic with us. And please, Dr. Zulfikar Amir, the time is yours. The screen is yours. You have 30 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, Dr. Joseph. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a big pleasure for me to be part of this fascinating conference. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee for having me here. So what I'm going to talk about today is a part of an ongoing project that I've been working since the pandemic started last year. And let me share my screen. Okay, so my talk will focus on one very important aspect of pandemic mitigation, which is contact tracing. And I would like to frame contact tracing here in my talk as a social practice and link it to the role of human solidarity, which is the theme of the conference. And at the end, I would like to emphasize, how we use the spirit of human solidarity to facilitate the process of contact tracing, which is fundamentally important to enhance our resilience toward the pandemic crisis. So let me start by explaining how we frame, the pandemic from a social science perspective. So basically, a pandemic or epidemic or a disease outbreak or whatever you call it, depending on the level of the scale of the crisis, can be seen from two perspectives. The first one is that a pandemic or epidemic is a natural phenomenon because it is triggered by an entity that a pathogen that we call virus or bacteria and etc. And it requires medical interventions such as the use of vaccines, medicine, testing, and etc. So it is very important to have adequate infrastructure of healthcare system that will allow a society to respond to the crisis. On the other hand, a pandemic can also be seen as a social phenomenon. Why? Because the spread of the virus is very much in line with the patterns of social behavior. There are some societies whose behaviors and patterns of interactions facilitate the spread of the virus, rapidly, while there are other societies or communities that have a very strong behavior, which is able to contain the spread of pandemic. So this is the reason why we should emphasize social interventions, because pandemic is part of the social phenomenon, and social interventions that we have to take during the crisis include, isolating those who are infected or controlling people physical interactions through policies such as lockdown, social restriction, and etc. As a sociologist, I am definitely more interested in understanding the aspect of social interventions, because I think the impact of the pandemic, the ongoing pandemic now, is primarily caused by social behavior, and it is through this perspective that I would like to bring up the notions of contact tracing as a social practice. Now, if we continue to talk about pandemic, I'm sure everyone is familiar with this graphic, which is flattening the curve model, first developed by United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention. So in the process of pandemic, basically there are a curve of infection cases, as you can see from the big the big curve. But then there's another curve. There is a lower one which is on the right, and the lower one basically is a result of our response. Now, there are two things that is very important in this graphic. The first one is the dash line right here, as you can see here. The dash line here, which indicates the capacity of hospitals in admitting patients. And this is a fundamentally important, because once the number of cases exceed this line, the threshold, then it will create more problems. So the goal of pandemic mitigation or pandemic response is basically to give a pressure to press this graphic so that we can flatten the curve like this. Now, what makes this possible is basically just a minute. Yeah, what makes this possible is that there's a set of social interventions that basically play a role in flattening the curve, and this is the role of social policies like a lockdown, social restrictions. So it's something that is commonly called in public health field as a non-pharmaceutical interventions, which I don't really like the term, so that's why I use the term social intervention. How do I clean the let me see, erase pen. Okay, so one of the key aspects in social interventions toward pandemic is contact tracing. Why? Because contact tracing is a method to contain the spread of pandemic at the early early stage. So if we can see here, for example, if one person is infected by a virus or a pathogen, and then he will get in touch with other people, a few of other people who are close contact to the patient, and the close contact will be able to trigger a community transmission, for example, in the neighborhood. And if it is not contained, it will create a massive spread in the city, and eventually, leading to a nationwide outbreak like what we see in Indonesia, last year. So what I want to say here is that every pandemic or every crisis begins from a single mistake or case. And this is the critical point where we have to respond. And crisis usually propagates rapidly in a tightly connected society, especially in urban places like in Jakarta or maybe in Surabaya, and it is quite difficult to contain once a crisis starts to propagate in a densely populated area. So the key to averting the catastrophe is early detection and containment, and this is where contact tracing play a central role, because once you have an index case, you can definitely contain the spread of pandemic if contact tracing is properly carried out at the early stage. So it is a crucial part of pandemic mitigation. Now, the problem is that contact tracing can be very, very challenging. Why? Because it depends on the patterns of interactions in our everyday life. And based on my analysis, we can define 4 groups of people to which we get in touch in everyday life. The first one here, or the most inner group of people are those who live with us in a household. This is the people who we live with, like husband and wife, father, parents and children, and etc. So it is very easy to to contact trace these people who live in the same household. And then outside the household, there's a group of people that we regularly meet. These are the routine people, for example, our colleagues in office, or maybe students, or anyone who we know very close and but don't live with us at home, in the same household. And this group of people is also relatively easy to contact trace because we know where they live, where they are, and etc. But then the problems start to increase when it comes to the third layer of people, which is people who we meet for an occasion. This is an incidental contact that we make. For example, if we have an appointment with a doctor, okay, so that's just one occasional meeting with a doctor, or maybe with someone who we work together, and etc. So these become quite difficult because sometimes people who we meet for an occasions, we don't have the address, we don't know where they live, and etc. And the most difficult layer of people to be contact traced are those who we meet randomly outside outside the house. People who we meet, like for example in the bus, in the train, in the market, and etc. Who are in contact with us, but we don't know who they are, we don't know where they live, and etc. So contact tracing is challenging because of these 4 layers of people that we meet in everyday life. And that's why one of the key aspects of social restriction policy is to reduce the number of people at the at the top 2 layers, the coincidental and the incidental. And that's basically the goal of lockdown or PSBB, if we use the term in Indonesia. But of course, it is very difficult to make sure that everyone stay at home. So sometimes we meet with those people randomly. So so we can categorize these 4 layers of people into those who are very likely to be traced, and those who very unlikely to be traced. And this is the challenge of contact tracing. And in some countries, they have tools like mobile applications to trace the top 2 layers, coincidental and incidental. But sometimes this depends on, you know, whether the people, whether in residents are willing to use the application or not. So the contact tracing is a social practice that is very much, you know, shaped or determined by social conditions. And I identify 5 aspects of 5 key social conditions that shape the likability of contact tracing to be carried out, you know, effectively. The first one is public trust. If public trust is high, then contact tracing will be easily to be carried out, because people trust those who are doing the contact tracing, and they are willing to be part of it. Social capital is also another dimensions that need to be that play a role in facilitating contact tracing, because, you know, people who have a solidarity among themselves will be motivated to, you know, to be contact trace, and because they care about the condition of other people. Risk perceptions is another aspect that also play a role in allowing contact tracing to be, you know, adequately implemented. Another aspect is legitimate authority. Legitimate authority refers to the use of authority by the government, whether it from the central government all the way to the local government. And if the legitimacy of this authority is strong and high, then people will be willing to you know, to volunteer in contact tracing. Otherwise, it's very difficult because people do not trust, you know, those government people to do the contact tracing. And the last one is technological infrastructure. As I said, you know, some countries such as Singapore is using mobile applications to as a tool to do contact tracing, and it works in a very, you know, very effectively. But technological infrastructure will be working well only if we have all 4 other aspects: public trust, social capital, risk perception, legitimate authority, and etc. I just want to share a bit of empirical data that we conducted, you know, last year from a survey in Bogor, and this is data that shows how willing people are to be part of contact tracing. And Bogor, you know, shows a very promising, you know, result in which most of the people, you know, are willing to be tested and become part of the contact tracing, and the data can be divided into, you know, groups based on gender. As you can see here, you know, more women are willing to be tested for COVID and to be traced than men, and there's also a group of preferring not answering. But in general, basically, we can see the same patterns of responses. This is based on educational level. What we can learn from here is that the higher the level of educations, the more willing and the more aware of those people to be part of contact tracing. And this is interesting. We cross-step with social responsibility, and what we found here on the left side is that people who do not care with other people, you know, tend to be unwilling to participate in contact tracing. So there is a correlation between social responsibility and solidarity with, you know, with the success of contact tracing. What I want to emphasize in this talk is that when we talk about pandemic resilience, this is a condition or this is a capacity that is built up by two layers of entities. The first one is the institutions, the government agency, and etc. And the other one is communities. So in disaster resilience, we know that these two entities must be well integrated in building and enhancing, a resilience, disaster resilience. And I would like to frame contact tracing here in this framework to say that contact tracing is part of collective responsibility. And this is not only a theory, because in practice it has been done by a small community of contact tracers, volunteer contact tracer in the city of Bandung, which I will spend another 5 minutes to talk about very briefly. So Bandung, I'm sure some, if not all of you, know the city. Is just 2 hours from Jakarta, and this is the location of this is the map of Bandung, as you can see here. And there's a small area here which is highlighted. It is a kelurahan Antapani Kidul. So this is the location of my small research project that I did 2 weeks ago. And Antapani Kidul is populated by 23,000 people, and there's one community health center or puskesmas, which play a central role in organizing contact tracing around the sub-district Antapani Kidul. And that puskesmas is called Puskesmas Jajaway. This is a Sundanese word. It's not like a Jajaway, like a busway. Okay, so different. So Puskesmas Jajaway is one of the participating puskesmas that conduct this called community-based surveillance or surveillance berbasis masyarakat, SBM. And this is a small project or small program of a collaboration between West Java Province and the Center for Indonesia Strategic Development Initiative, CISDI. CISDI is a think tank organization that focus on healthcare system in Indonesia, and they play a very important role in managing these programs of community-based surveillance. And just want to give you a short intro. So basically, the community-based surveillance is a program where volunteers from the community from neighborhood communities are taking part in tracing those who are in contact with a person who has tested positive for COVID-19. And it is not an easy job, because they have to approach the person privately and encourage them to be tested for COVID, and help them if they are confirmed positive and they need to be isolated at home. So it's such a humanitarian work that they have to do, and this is done by a group of people who are part of the community. So Dr. Rosita Kosase, which I met 2 weeks ago, is the head of the Puskesmas Jajaway, and she has 20 years of medical experiences at the grassroots level in Bandung, and she's doing a wonderful job in organizing the Puskesmas and also facilitating the contact tracing program. This is one of the volunteers, Mrs. Tita Nurcahyawati. She's 38. She's a mother of 2, and by daytime, she's an online shop and catering business owner. So she's an entrepreneur, but also she's the head of neighborhood organization. So which we call RT. So she's the Ketua RT. But also a volunteer for Integrated Healthcare Center, or in Indonesia called Posyandu. And since June, 2 months ago, she becomes part of this, contact tracer, and she's been the head of COVID-19 task force in her neighborhood. There's another man, it's very, highly committed, Mr. Henry Tahalu. He's a father of 2 daughters. He lost his his job just before the pandemic start, but doesn't prevent him to get involved in neighborhood community. So he's a secretary of neighborhood community, Sekretaris RT. He's a social activist. He graduated from social work college in Bandung, and he's also a volunteer of disaster response, and now he's volunteering in the community-based in contact tracing. And the last volunteer is Miss Mariati, 34. She's a single mom of 2 and also an entrepreneur. She has an online food business, and she's the head of neighborhood health team. So she's been involved in providing, healthcare to, to her neighbors, and she's one of the contact tracer. So what I want to highlight here is that these contact tracers are volunteers. They are not paid, okay, although they got some incentive from the government, but they told me they don't really care about the payment. So they do it based on the spirit of solidarity, and so they just want to help, their neighbors and to prevent, the spread of coronavirus in their neighborhood. So in conclusion, there are 5 points that I would like to highlight here. The first one is that contact tracing is social practice, and it plays an important role to curb, disease outbreak. And it is a social practice because it embodies knowledge of the relation and social institution. The second one is that contact tracing will succeed if there's a certain social conditions that allow, early detection and isolations to be carried out, effectively. And further, contact tracing is fundamental because it's part of our pandemic resilience, especially in multiple waves outbreak, like what we see right now. After the second, after the first wave, there's a second wave, and we don't know if the third wave is coming. And I want to say that, contact tracing should be considered as a collective responsibility because we cannot rely solely on governments. Some of the contact tracing work that is done by the government did not really work, at the grassroots level, because people at certain conditions, do not really trust, the government people. So they allow only their neighbors to do that because they know them in their life. And the last one is that human solidarities, which is the sort of the backbone of these contact tracing, practices, allows communities to build pandemic resilience at the grassroots level, and it is this, resilience that we need to survive the post-pandemic era. Thank you. So I'm looking forward to any comments, feedback, questions from participants.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sufika Amir, for your presentation. It's pleased to hear from your presentation that how important contact tracing is, and you have emphasized some idea or thinking that the contact tracing is a social practice to curb disease outbreak, and contact tracing is important since contact tracing will be part of a tool to build empathy and solidarity, and contact tracing is part of the collective responsibility to overcome this pandemic. And it is important, you emphasize that it's important to build contact tracing based on community-based surveillance, since we have different type of relationship in our community or in our society. Thank you for your presentations. We will continue to our second speakers. It will be Associate Professor Dr. Sukre Langpute from Fatoni University, Thailand. Professor Dr. Sukre Langpute now is a Deputy Rector for International Relations from Fatoni University, Thailand. His experience as a member of Yala Rajabat University's Council, assistant to the Director for Academic Affairs and Research, and another experience in administrative activities in the campus. As academic experiences, Dr. Sukre Langpute is a visiting scholar at International Public and Management Administration in Malaya University, Malaysia, from Academic Fellow Center of Peace Studies and Conflict Management of Chulalongkorn University in Thailand. And it is important to mention one of awards got from Prince Awadid bin Talal Center for Muslim Christian Understanding, Georgetown University, and it is one of the most influential Muslims in the world 2009 that have been presented to Professor Dr. Sukre Langpute. Please welcome Dr. Professor Langpute, and he will have a 30-minute presentations, and we will continue with our discussion. Please, Professor Dr. Langpute, times is yours, and also screens is yours. Please.
Yes, thank you very much, and very good afternoon, Joseph, Dr. Joseph, as moderator of our program this afternoon, and also our panelists or our speaker from the Singapore, from NTU, Prof. Sulfika, who just finished his presentation, and my respect to also to two discussants which will be discussing, after me. That is Dr. Bagus and also Dr. Noor. I am happy to be with all of you and all 42 participants in this Zoom meeting. And I believe that every one of you, not only from one country, but maybe from more than one country or even one region. Thank you very much for the invitation to me, myself, and also to my university. My university is more or less understood as Wakaf University, Endowment University. It's a small university in southern Thailand. It's a small university in southern Thailand, but we do have populations of 40 countries coming to study in the conflict area. As maybe many of you who used to visit southern Thailand, or even you know why the name of Patani. You know that we were living in conflict areas. Sometimes we do have violence here and there, but still, because of the efforts that we are trying to open platform for human solidarity and also peace management, whatever, finally we could bring students from 5 continents of the world, 40 countries coming to study, including Indonesia. We have students from Aceh, we have students from Jakarta, we have students from Maluku studying with us. So all those students who are coming to study with us, they are our teachers, they are our resources who are bringing, and sharing experiences in living with different cultures, religions, and ethnicities. I myself would like to extend my gratitude to the organizers as well. And I'd like to say something which is more of a conceptual. And just now we have listened to Prof. Sulfika with statistics, all data collected, which is very, very, very interesting. But in my case, I will try to bring you to see conceptual things, which is very important as well for us to understand. So by saying, maintaining human solidarity in the post-pandemic era, I will try to bring issues that we discuss in the Muslim community, maybe in Thailand, or in Southeast Asia, or even Muslim in the globe, talking about what are the main principles that we are believing in human beings having, in fact, a solidaritative platform that we can join and that we can work together. And especially in the post-pandemic era, or even the during pandemic era, we are now facing lots of feeling that finally we are living in the same globe. We are very, very global. I mean, the issues is global, but the actions which has been taken by every government, every governance in every province are very, very local indeed. So it means that the pandemic COVID-19 has brought us to live in global, what I would like to say here. So my term is global, is the mixture between global and also local. So by saying this, I'd like to wait for a while. The problem with okay, I would like to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. At least, as Muslim, I would like to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Whatever I am doing now, whatever I'm going to do after this, whatever I speak is already written by Malaika. It's already collected into my biodata of goodness, or even whatever I do will be accountable by myself. So by saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, I extend the gratitude for the God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for giving us this opportunity. Well, I used 4 languages that we are using in my university to say salam to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh in Arabic, which I believe that there are a lot of Muslims, 1.4 million Muslims in the world, greeting to each other by saying Assalamu alaikum. So in fact, Muslims shouldn't be somebody who extend war or warfare or even conflict or even violence to the humanity, because we are praying 5 times a day, we are saying Assalamu alaikum on the right and we are saying Assalamu alaikum on the left. So for example, by myself, I pray 5 times, means that I'm saying Assalamu alaikum on the right 5 times, on the left 5 times. So 10 times I'm saying, peace be upon you, peace be upon you. So that's why I said, if 1.4 million Muslims are praying at the same time, means that, Assalamu alaikum is in fact, worldwide, or it is very interesting. Then to make it international, to make it global program, global conference here, I just purposely write in Thai language the word Assalamu alaikum. When it is extended in my language, even though it is not by saying Assalamu alaikum in Arabic, but when I say Khor Kwam Santi to me that Tan, means that I also extend peace to my Buddhist friends, to my Hindu friends, to my friends who are not Muslim in my country. And also, I myself living with my family or my wife's family who are still Buddhist and Christian. My in-laws, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law who are still Buddhist, my grandmothers-in-law who are Christians. I mean, we were living together, we are talking to each other, we are extending peaceful messages to each other. And then, of course, the last one, the third one is peace be upon you. This is the translation of Assalamu alaikum. And the last one is Salam Sejahtera ke atas Anda. This is very strange that we are living in southern Thailand. We are living in Thailand. Muslim is minority, but because of being a democratic country, in education especially, in educational system, we are still democratic. So we can still teach, Bahasa Melayu Jawi in our schools here. So I believe that even though the population, Malay population or Muslim population in Thailand is very small, but the number of our students who are capable of writing or even speaking Bahasa by using this alphabet, this Jawi script of Jawi alphabets are much more as compared to Indonesia or even Malaysia or even Brunei. Okay, this is in fact the bridge of bringing people into the same human solidarity. because there are a lot of words in Malay language which are not especially coming from the Arab words. There are a lot of words which are used by Muslims in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, Darussalam. We are Muslim in the south of Thailand, in Patani, and people who are in Cambodia, Cham people who are also using Malay language. We call the word fasting as puasa. I was in Indonesia. I heard everyone is saying puasa in Ramadan. In Malaysia, you use the word puasa. In Brunei, you say the word puasa. At one time, my wife was doing PhD there. I was in Brunei. Everyone is saying puasa. No one is saying siyam or saum or siyam in Arabic. So I came back to Thailand and I talked to friends who are experts in Bali Sanskrita and Bali and Pali language. So I learned that in Thai language, we have one word. This is buat. Buat means for the Buddhist monk who are performing their rituals. They stop eating when the time comes about 11 a.m. whatever. It means that they have to stop eating and they will be able to eat again when the times come, whatever. So it means that when Islam's come to Southeast Asia, the experiences of Malay people or even maybe Javanese people at that time were having those, especially Buddhists. They were performing puasa as well. But so when Islam's come, the only actions of puasa has been integrated into our ibadah, but the word for puasa is still used even we are Muslim already. And it is, in fact, if I have time, I could trace for you. So I will leave you my WhatsApp number, the emails for those who want to go and trace more. We can discuss about that. Well, even the word kepala, in Thai language we call kaban, and in Pali and Sanskrita we call kapal. So it means that even somewhere that we put Quranic verses here, we put knowledge of Islam here, we put the belief of God is here, but we still use the word which are derived from Pali and Sanskrita. So it means that Islamization or integration that happened in Southeast Asia is very interesting. It shows that how we are living in platform for solidarity. Okay, so to make it short, I will try to discuss with you only 5 principles of human solidarity from Muslim perspective, or to make it easier and to be accountable myself. I would say that this is my perceptions on human solidarity by understanding 5 principles. The first principle is being humankind. Every one of us are humankind, and Islam look at that we are born humankind. I mean, the status of being humankind, even though you are male, female, you are being a Raja or you are being slave, whatever, we are humankind. It is stated by all Old Testament, New Testament, Quran, Tripitaka, or Upanishad, whatever. The status of man is being humankind is for everyone. The second principle is we are being sons and daughters of Adam and Eve. I mean, it depends on the teaching of each and every scriptures of religions, whether going to be mentioned vividly, whether we are sons of Adams or we are daughters or sons of Eve. But everyone knows that we are from the same fathers and mothers. So if we are talking more on these issues, if we are talking more, even though the incidents of Taliban in Afghanistan, even though the incidents everywhere in the world that's happened about war and conflict, whatever, but if everyone is bringing each one's issues on, we are coming from the same group of people. Okay, this is the second principle that finally become platform for our human solidarity. The third one is we are in the era of the last prophet. This is, excuse me, I would like to say this from Muslim point of view. But my analysis here is saying that I don't see any teaching of Buddhism saying that after Buddha there will be another prophet. I learned also from friends and also from my lecturers, my teachers who are Jewish, who are Christians, or Orthodox, or Protestants, and whatever, and Catholic, that there is no saying that after Jesus there will be prophets. Only Islam says that. Only Quran says that Muhammad is the last prophet. So based on that, means that we Muslims, we do accept all those prophets. Even there is some saying, unfortunately I couldn't find who initiated these ideas the first, that even Buddha himself is maybe, I'm not going to be responsible for this saying, but there is also an attempt to say that even Buddha himself is regarded as one of the Nabi, one of the prophet of Islam. This is the efforts of trying to look things in the same basket. So in this case, we are in the era of the last prophet, because in the Quran it says that Muhammad will be the last prophet, and the last prophet will be the prophet until the end of judgment, until the day of judgment. So that's why, according to the understanding of Muslims, everyone who are living in this earth is our brotherhood, our sisterhood, because we are sharing the last prophet. Either you accept Muhammad or not, either you like it or not, but we believe that the prophets that mentioned in scriptures vividly is Muhammad in the Quran. And the fourth one is the last prophet was to teach about brotherhood and humanity. You may look at the teaching Muhammad and even the Quran and Hadith talking about war and these kind of things that happen during his time or even after that, until many people are talking about Islam is approaching others by proceeding, by offering of wars, killing, whatever. But if you look carefully, the teaching of Muhammad ﷺ is in fact was to teach about brotherhood, how to live together, how to be together. I just would like to mention one example here. When Muslims are studying the Sirah Nabawiyah, or the history of the Prophet Muhammad, sometimes when we mention the word or the name of the people in Arabic, sometimes it misleads us until we believe that Abi Talib is Muslim. Even I myself, when I was small, when I was young, I attended, Tadika, we call it. So when my teacher told me that after his mom died, his mom passed away, then he was living with his grandfather. When his grandfather passed away, he lived with his uncle. Then when I look at the name of his uncle, Abu Talib or Abi Talib, it's mentioned by the Arabs style, I was thinking that Abi Talib must be Muslim. I was thinking Abi Talib must be somebody who has the same ideology with the Prophet Muhammad, who accepted his call. But in fact, Abu Talib, until his death, he never accepted Islam. He never becomes Muslim. But how come this uncle and nephew are living together? How Muhammad ﷺ and Abu Talib living together, eating together, walking together, until, you can see in Hadith or whatever, the relationship between these two. So I would like to direct our attention for myself, for my friends in southern Thailand, or in Thailand, or for my friends in Indonesia, Malaysia, try to look at two figures, Muhammad and Abu Talib, who are having different religions. And Muhammad himself is the idol or Superman for Muslims to follow and to learn from him. But he himself has very direct uncle who lived with him, and that man until died, he did not enter to Islam. This is very important. That it means that Muhammad ﷺ accepted humanity or solidarity of humanity living together with the people who are not Muslim. And then the last one, this is, I think, common knowledge for everyone, that all religions are teaching people into goodness. I mean, all men and women are brought by his religions to become good Muslim or good Buddhist or good Jewish or whatever. I would like to say here, before I end these 5 principles, I feel so gratitude to my professor. Let me mention his name, Professor Justin Covell from Missouri, Wisconsin. I learned Arabic from him. Many of us Normally, we learn Arabic from Muslim professors, from Muslim teachers, from Muslim guru, Muslim ustad. But I learned Arabic from Muslim ustads as well, but I couldn't speak Arabic well because the techniques, the pedagogy of teaching Arabic at that time, those days when I was small, was young, more of memorization. But when I studied Arabic with one professor who firstly graduated undergraduate studies in literature, then he continued master's program in Arabic language, and then finally he did PhD in Arabic language. And what's more, he produced a lot of writings, a lot of publications in Arabic until he got full professor in Arabic language. When he come to Malaysia those days, I was his student. After learning with him for one semester, wallahi, I could speak Arabic. I am able to speak Arabic because of his pedagogy of teaching Arabic. So from that point onward, it taught me that it is not that I have to study Arabic, which is a religion, the language of my religion, language of my scripture, Al-Quran, from Muslim teachers, but also from anyone who can teach me and understand. And then Prof. Dustin Cowell, he told me, and he told us in the class, I love Arabic language until I forgot to get married. He said, هو قال نسيت للنكاح لأنني أحب اللغة العربية. ما شاء الله. Okay, this is what I would like to mention here and conclude here, that these are 5 principles of being solidarity among human beings. Okay, in order to reach that, let me check the time, how many minutes more, because I'd like to listen to discussions, how they, okay, I have 10 minutes more to go further. Okay, in order to reach that distance, that destiny, I would like to come up with some strategy. You like it or not, or you agree or disagree, it's fine, because when we are working in inter-religious discourse or inter-ethnic discourse, whatever, we have statement, and then we have anti-statement, and then finally we have synthetic statement, or we have thesis, we have antithesis, and we have synthesis. So finally, we will come up with the synthesis which everyone is happy with. So I'd like here, as a speaker, I would like to not promote, but also, but just to present my ideas on how can we go, how can we go forward to establish human solidarity. I come up with 3 strategies. That is, the first strategy is self-strategy, which is S of my son, or O, organizational strategy. This is O of my word sons. And then last one is networking strategy. That is N of my son, of the word sons of mine. The first one is self-strategy. Dear brothers and sisters, friends, in this conference, I'd like to mention here is that when I say self-strategy, we need at least Bloom's summarized taxonomy of understanding of, cognitive domain, psychomotor domain, and affective domain. I put the word 3H here, that means head, hand, and heart. What I'd like to say here is this: how much I know about Christianity, how much my Buddhist friends knows about Islam, how much our Hindu friend knows about Buddhism. So we have to outline what are the things that we should know about our friend's religion, how much we should know, and what the best way that we should learn from, either from the people that having the same religion with us, or we directly learned about their religion from the people who are in that religion. I would like to mention here is that there was one book in Thailand written about 50 years ago. When I searched books on comparative religion, when the book written on others' religion, which is not the religion yet by the writer himself, there are a lot of mistakes sometimes, and there are a lot of misunderstandings. But I could accept that because it is not our religion. As long as you could present that religion, right or wrong, That's academic efforts. But one book which attracts my feelings, my understanding, and also my heart, when it is written that rather than writing comparative religion, that book in Thai language means Sasana Khong Phuen, religions of friends religion, means that when he writes something about other religion, which is not his own religion, I don't mind whether there will be mistakes or there will be misunderstanding, because he tries to understand his friend's religion. So this is here what I like to say here, that we should put what are the knowledge of others' religion that we should know, not to possess, not to be that in that religion, but should know, and then we should respect them. The second one, this is hand or psychomotor domain for sun strategy. Okay, for example, I'm living in a society where there are Buddhist majority and also have friends who are Christian. How should I greet or how should I talk to friends who are not Muslim, who are Christian, who are Buddhist? How should I bow them? Like this or like this or like this? These all are techniques, these all are skills that we need to teach our students, that we need to teach ourselves or our family members. When you are with your friends or your family members who are not Muslim, how could you extend your religious greetings towards them, which finally it doesn't disturb your aqidah, it doesn't make you with another fitna like a murtad or whatever. So when my son and daughters are meeting their family members who are Buddhists, how to greet them, how to talk to them, how to ask them, this is very important. And finally, another strategy which is important, that is heart. We have to, or to my language, we must having optimist feelings and even a positive mind, believing that one day the world will come into one and everyone is understanding each other. Okay, this is self-strategy, that is sun strategy. The second one, I will make it short. The second one is organizational strategy, which we need now. We need now to establish more organization in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Thailand, in ASEAN countries, or in any continent, in order to promote, human solidarity. That finally people feel that they can be in the same platform, they can work in the same platform, they can perform well in the same platform. Forget about what are differences among us, but try to look at what are similarities among us, that we can go, we can eat together, etc. But anyway, when I would like to underline organizational strategy, normally there are two types of organizations that I would like to mention here. The first is the pyramidic organization. When I say pyramidic, means the pyramid, normally we try to put attention to the top of the pyramid. When we go to Egypt, we go to Cairo, we went to pyramid, what we want to see, instead of looking at the ground base of the pyramid, we suddenly look at the top of the pyramid. So when we look at organizations, sometimes we look Mr. A, Mr. B, who is the president, who is the chairman of the association, whatever. But in fact, in one association, in one club, in one society, it is in fact the combination of all efforts of everyone. So that's why I would like to promote, also to suggest another organizational structure, which I call it Qiblat. Because when you look at Qiblat, for Muslim brothers and sisters, you may easily understood that when you look at Qiblat, there are 4 poles of Qiblat. 4 poles of Qiblat. We have, Rukun Jabani, Rukun Hajar al-Aswad, Rukun Iraqi. So each pole of the Qiblat plays the role. Just likewise in our organization, we need people who are having different characteristics. Like the Prophet, when he was living with Abu Bakr is one character, Omar is one character, Ali is academic character, Usman is economic character. So the organization was strong in Medina because the Prophet Muhammad is having 4 kinds of people who are being in the same organization. So finally, this organization in Medina is strong, even stronger than Makkah. Okay, the last 2 minutes I'd like to show here is that networking strategy is important. Why? Because you need to work with 4 groups of people. There are insiders. We Muslim and Muslim. We Shafi'i and Shafi'i. Then inside outsiders, maybe Shafi'i and Hanafi. This is intra-Muslim relation. Or inside outsiders in Indonesia, you are Muslims, you are Buddhists, you are Christian, you are Hindus. So this is outside outsiders. I mean people who are who are from inside living outside. And outside insiders, I don't have time much to explain on that, but I think these 4 categories of people are networking that we have to work on our strategy. Not only living in the same group of people inside insiders, but even the 4th group, outsiders, people who have never come to Indonesia, people who have never come to Southeast Asia, but they are also important for our efforts in producing solidarity. So finally, another 1 minute last, I would like to show pictures to you. Then I believe you can understand from these pictures, these are challenges of human solidarity. This black dot are sometimes like black feelings or negative feelings that we always have when we look at someone. And this black feeling, finally, look at this photo, this picture nicely. The small white block will be filled by that black one. So this is normally happen to us. And then finally, we will feel that, okay, we are not equal, you are treated better than us, whatever. This is the problem that happened. So this is also challenges because we are living in this is Thailand. We have Buddhists, we have mosques, we have a Buddhist temple, we have churches, but difficult to live together. But at the same time, we do have, we have monarchy, we have religion, and we have the people of different tribe, different group. Buddhists also, but Buddhists in the north and Buddhists in the south are different ethnic group. We have Muslims also, but Muslims in the south are Malay. Muslim, time's up. Muslims in Bangkok are mostly, Arabs, Persian. Muslim in the north, Chinese, whatever. So this is the challenges that we do face. And what more when we go to ASEAN community? What more when we look at all those world organizations that's among us? And this is a headache. Yeah? So because of that, it happens also. This is another challenge. This is also another challenge. This is also another challenge to which platform we are moving towards. And this is also another challenge because finally the train cannot move because of this thing. Anyway, we do have, okay, give me 1 minute last opportunities. Look, this program, this conference, this global conference is in fact, we are trying to bring so I love the words that you use in this conference, bridging. No, we don't destroy the wall, but we brought down the wall in order to utilize the strongness and the strength of the wall into being bridging. Okay, this is very important. We have to be optimistic, and then we think that one day we can be small cat who can work as lions. And this is 2 lines which are having the same lens, but if we have broad-minded, then we can go further. And this is what I would like to urge all of us to work for human solidarity. Everyone is working. And then finally, I want all of us, myself, and even you, to become heroes, to become champion. Not only the organizers are champion, not only the speakers are champion, but also the discussants and also the participant will become champion. These are the picture I would like to show that in any community, we need 2 groups of people, the Sheikh and Shabab, the seniors and also the juniors. They must be together to transfer the solidarity that happened. Time for us to be united and work and move the world together. I believe that the goodness of the people who are having goodness should move the world rather than letting the shaitan or the satan to move on behalf of us. So thank you very much. Khop khun, terima kasih, shukran, selamat po, sia-sia, and shukriya. These are different languages which is in fact extending good things for all of us. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Langpute, for your presentations. Before I pass the time for our discussant, I want to highlight some idea from your presentations. You said that whatever who we are or what status we have to think that all of us are humankind. and it should be based of our solidarity, and that all religions teach us good things, and it will help us to build our solidarity among human. And you say, you mentioned about religion. You said that the way we learn other religion will impact how we look at other religions. And we know other religions should be in purpose to raise that. How we know other religions, it should be in purpose to raise our respect to others. Yeah. And the last things that I want to emphasize, that you mentioned that it is important to think how we will build our networking, because how we build our networking, it will also build our human solidarity. Thank you for your presentation again from Professor Langpute. Now we will continue to our discussant. Our first discussant will be Romo Albertus Bagong Laksono from Sanata Dharma University School of Theology. Currently he is Dean of the Faculty of Theology, Sanata Dharma University. And Romo Bagus, you have 5 to 7 minutes to present your idea in this conference. Please, the time and screens is yours.
All right, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this very timely and important conference. Thank you, Pa Oce, for a very nice moderating role. And then also for the speakers, Dr. Zulfikar and Dr. Sukri, for stimulating discussions and presentations. On my part, I just want to highlight some of the things that we have heard before from the two speakers. The presentations are very rich, and for that matter, I don't want to go into the details of their presentation, but I want to highlight some of the important and timely messages of the two and findings of the two presenters in light of the document Fratelli Tutti. So let me share some of my slides and I'll discuss some of the features of the two presentations before in light of the Fratelli Tutti from those slides. Okay. I have more slides, but for the sake of time, I just want to highlight a few slides of them. And as I listen to the presentations, the two fine presentations of our two speakers, I come to see the importance of social covenant emphasized by both presenters in different ways. And the language of Fratelli Tutti by Pope Francis is also gearing toward that kind of creation of social covenant among many religions and also entities in our social life. But the language is more experiential. I see the two speakers also deal with this kind of thing. Voluntarism in Bandung, social tracing as something that also has a root in our virtue as citizens. We have to be responsible. And this is an experience and finding of the research done by Dr. Zulfikar emphasizes that kind of role. Pope Francis reminds us of the joy that comes when we respect others. And this experience should not stop here, but lead to the creation of a social covenant where no one is despised. As I listened to the presentation of Dr. Sukri from Thailand, I see this kind of thing ringing a bell there. He talks about self-strategy and then organizational strategy and then networking kind of strategy. So there should be a personal and interpersonal experience regarding solidarity, empathy, but also in terms of experiencing the pandemic. And then it doesn't stop there. The spirit of fraternity wants us to move beyond this very deep personal experience toward the creation of more social covenant, a culture of solidarity. As I see it, after the pandemic, after the role played by social tracing, self-isolation, science, vaccination, and so on and so forth, then we have to be able to base our social covenant on the long experience of suffering and struggle and solidarity during the pandemic. So maintaining human solidarity after the pandemic or in a post-pandemic era depends on this depth. We have gone through a quite long period of this pandemic, and we have to learn something on that level of being human. And responding to self-tracing, for example, responding then to the next step of social tracing. If you are infected or you are highly suspect in this kind of line of transmission, you have to isolate. What do you do when you are in isolation? What you learn during this very quiet and very lonely time, but it can be very spiritual time, very transformative time for all of us. So this experience of struggle, of suffering, losing our dear ones and so forth, has to play a role in creating a different social covenant after the pandemic. And then what I see in those two presentations are also the emphasis on the connection between the personal, the religious, and the cultural. Dr. Zulfikar said that among those who really want to care for others, their willingness to get involved in social tracing voluntarily is higher. The level, the willingness is higher. So the personal attitude here is also very important, and it comes with religious values as well. I see Dr. Supri emphasizing this, the role of religion, the role of dialogue, interreligious dialogue, comparative religious studies or theology and so forth and so on, but also the cultural. And Pope Francis, in his document Fratelli Tutti, also emphasizes this. He said that personal experience should lead to creation of culture, and where the specificities of local culture should be combined with more universal values. So Dr. Supri also talks about this kind of importance of local culture, local religious culture. But I want to also see how the strength, the specificities of local culture is playing a role in the compliance of people in terms of social tracing, also doing self-isolation and so forth and so on. Because this is quite crucial, and we learn from studies after studies that local culture here, the way people behave in a certain community, affects the way COVID-19 has been perceived and dealt with. So this is quite important. But I want also to emphasize in our discussion about the personal encounter with the pandemic. All of us have personal encounter with it, for better or for worse. But we also have to listen to universal scientific values, but also local.
You have 2 minutes more, Romo Bagus.
Okay, medicinal values. And then we also need this kind of solitude. One of the biggest lessons of pandemic on a personal level, but also global level, is having this period of being alone, of doing not much, but doing something perhaps deeper. And then we can create a culture of solitude and sabbath, a culture of having a rest, to enjoy creation, to amend relationships, to build a stronger society from that perspective and level. And then also voluntary works emphasized by both the speakers. People are now creative, doing that kind of thing. And then also the role of religious values and framework And then lastly, I want to emphasize the creation of new way of being a volunteer after the pandemic. People are probably wanting to do more of tourism, but tourism can be combined with volunteerism to help local people, but to also have some fun and joy. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Romo Bagus, for your response, your presentations. I want to highlight some ideas. You tell us that isolation during pandemic, especially when someone affected by virus, this is not only time of silence, but also time for transformation and thinking of our spirituality. And solidarity should be built in connection with solitude, and it will be in pair with what our two speakers have mentioned before, or have speak with us in their presentation. Thank you for your presentation again, Romo Bagus. And now we will continue to our second discussant, Dr. Nor Sudiati from Indonesia Institute of the Arts of Yogyakarta. Dr. Nor Sudiati is a lecturer at Institut Seni Indonesia or Indonesian Art Institute. She is activist and a pioneer concerning traditional beliefs. She is also expert in ceramic art, and from what information I got from internet, Dr. Nor Sudiati, with her some arts exhibitions, always connected also with human solidarity. So we welcome Dr. Nor Sudiati, and Dr. Nor Sudiati, you have 5 to 7 minutes presentations. Now, time and screens is yours, please.
Okay. Okay, I'm so thank you for all, and I appreciate it with two speakers. Very appreciated to Professor Sulfikan Amir and Professor Dr. Sukri Langputeh. And I want to appreciate to all of global conference. And I have a PowerPoint, so I need to share. Saya bisa minta tolong untuk Mas Nurdin nge-share ya. Bisa share? Okay, thank you. In this case, conference is about after pandemic in Japanese is the word is pagebluk. Yeah. Suddenly everything changed. Social, economic, to pray, attitude for all, worship. Grow awareness of this life should be how? One harmony and change growing. Achieving harmony, we explore politics and local wisdom and heritage from our nation as ancestor. Where to believe? The values of the archipelago have a universal value in line with the values of Pancasila attitude. The appreciation of this life, Kawula Gusti Bawana in Japanese, the created being, the creator, and the bliss of life. Next. Next, Mas Dani. In the Japanese, we have a good concept. There is a Bali marang sangkan paraning dumadi and manunggaling kawula Gusti. So the last hama mayu hayuning bawono. But this from hama mayu hayuning bawono. So manunggaling kawula Gusti and Bali marang sangkan paraning dumadi. There is a concept of a Japanese keep. Next. What is hama mayu hayuning bawono? Beautiful the earth that has been created beautiful. Synergize with other planets that sunlight supports living these things on earth. Earth we will return. On earth we visit temporary, respect, appreciated, utilize, preserve, ritual, custom, traditional symbols of respect for the local people to their earth. There is nature. Remove the word musyrik, syirik, bid'ah to the performers of respect for the mother earth. On it, we can find heaven and hell for each of our practice or dharma in Hindu. Earth is a place to restore element of the human body. There is a human body was to return to earth. Next. What is manunggaling kawula Gusti? There is harmony relationship about spiritual, physical, about body and soul, about inner and board, about taste and logic, about the creator and the created. Everything, movement will step only toward Gusti. Bagusing ati, there is nice from her. Gusti or God is always present in man because we are connected. Next. Bali marang sangkan paraning dumadi. This is everything, moments, movement will steps only towards Gusti. Bagusing ati, there is a nice from my heart. Good consideration comes first. Soul, mind, taste, knowledge by taste. With art, in our studies from Devi Saraswati concept, there is to Hindu to keep this is Gusti or God is always present in man because we are connected. Next. We keep learn, sensitive to all existence and contemplation, learning short art, tradition, custom, local wisdom, and local culture. Next. How to be return to the nest of the bird. 1. Awareness for safety, new and normal. And 2. Harmony concept. So this one, education. Education is not only a material output, but also policy and value output. There is from student for in Indonesia, I think for PAUD to dari PAUD sampai ke perguruan tinggi. And this explore the noble value of ancestor. So the last, we need a global commitment to health. Next, implied in health protocol. One, wash hands, cleanse ego and sense of belonging from things that are noticed. None of his business. Two, suit your mouth. Don't make useless noise. Speak up nice and aesthetic. Three, at home, back to home, back to his own heart, to the out, back to this own heart, to the authenticity of the self, back to the family, when it's built from the culture side with noble values that grow from own culture. 4, keep a distance. Keep a distance from things that smell negative energy. And the last, not crowding, avoiding majlis that have no clear purpose and have not been. Next. Okay. Thank you, greeting of visionary. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace for us all. Salam, Santi, Santi Hom, Seti Hotu, Wididong Tian, Nabud Budaya, Rahayu, 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 Sagung Dumadi. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nur Sudianti, for your response, for your presentation. I want to highlight also some thing or some idea from your presentations. It is interesting that you give emphasis on local wisdom, and I found that it's important to think about our local wisdom in building solidarity with others. And you give emphasis also on relationship, not only between human and human, but relationship between human and God and all creations, especially with art. You base your views from local wisdoms, from Javanese philosophy. And for you, it means that we should not build solidarity with human only, but also with our earth, yeah? And we cannot build our solidarity among human and human, yeah, atau between human and human, without building solidarity with God and other creations, especially with our earth. And for you, it should begin in and from our mind. And from your last presentation, it's interesting that when you talk about back home, yeah, you try to relate, yeah, this idea of human solidarity with family. And it seems that you want to say that it should be start from our family, this human solidarity. Thank you, Dr. Nur, for your presentation. Now we have time for our discussions. We have about 30 to 40 minutes left for our discussions. And I want to give a chance for our participant to ask, to to raise questions. I have Mr. Henry Victor Boniface from Tanzania. Please raise your question in short, so we have more time to discuss your question with presenter and discussant. Please, Mr. Henry Victor Boniface.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Good morning in Tanzania.
Yes, still morning here in Tanzania. The first question I was asking regarding about the vaccines, and the question was, vaccine take longer time in laboratory before approval for vaccination in comparison with COVID-19 vaccines, which are less than a year from production and are not a fully cure of the virus. Why is it mandatory to some countries that without being vaccinated, you have no rights to some of the services? As we can see now, you can travel without being vaccinated. You can't go to the hotel in some countries without being vaccinated. And we know these vaccines are not 100% approved for vaccination. So what is it now? And the other question was, in our country, we have organic made COVID-19 medicine that is organic, full organic. That proves to be 97% efficient. For instance, I myself, I got COVID-19 a month ago, and I was using the organic until I was able to recover from it. So do we see there is importance of World Health Organization to approve these organic made medicines? Because I see we have so many vaccines from the Western, especially USA, and we have vaccines from the Europe, in the UK, some of them from the Russia, but we don't have actually our own made vaccines. So do we think that there is importance of us to preach for the World Health Organization to look after our own organic vaccines or these medicines so that they can prove them we can use? Because some people, they're fearing about those vaccines from the Western and European because they don't know actually their efficiency. And some of the people, when they read from the news, they hear from the news that some of the vaccines maybe leads to death. People, they're fearing about this. So is it the right time to preach for World Health Organization to look after organic made medicines, or what should we do now?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Henry. I think speakers and discussant had understood your questions. Now we continue to the second participants, Mr. Walid Rizk. Please raise your question.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be here to share with you my opinion and my thought about this online session. So, as we know, humanity is not in perfection or infallibility and error, and regret is being human. So the concern of life might prevent us from communicating with the ones we love, but it is impossible to prevent us from thinking about them. So, you know, everybody has his opinion, has his thought, has his own personal. So how can we act? How can we do things? Sometimes we are good, but it's not enough. We should improve our goodness. So how can we show that? We can't pretend we are good without action. So everybody he can talk and give sweet talking, but it's not enough. If you don't act with your talking, with your action, actually action on the reality, that means you are hypocrite. So that means how can, and you are so far from doing it. But when you do something, even it was a little bit thing, you can share happiness with people. You don't know how much the power when you change others, even if you do a little bit things to help them. So that means how can we unit our thought, our thinking, if we don't share our what we have with others. So first of all, we should listen, be a good listener to others, and we open our not just air, our heart. We should welcome everybody, excluding no one, because we are human, regardless who we are, or what we are. That's my opinion. We should understand the people. We should understand the culture. We should understand the environment that surrounded us. That if we want to see how people they are listening for us, because we can you be agreement and you force others to hear you if you don't listen to them, because everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Rizieq. I think the speaker has got your idea or your response. Now, the last chance for participants, Mr. Nur Hartanto, please, in short, raise your questions.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. I would like to stressing about the importance of the local values, yeah, particularly in Indonesia. Majority people of Indonesia always acknowledge about the values of gotong royong, supporting one each other, solidarity one each others. Yeah, and during COVID-19 pandemic, yeah, we can show it, and majority a lot of people practicing it. But to be honest, yeah, I'm worried with the long-term implementation of these values. Even all religions take all the followers, yeah, with the good values for respecting one each other, for supporting one each others, yeah. But in the modern era, particularly after or post-pandemic, yeah, I'm worried because the characteristic of human being now move from the solidarity to individualistics. It is why, and then it is very, very important, yeah, through this forum, yeah, we can work to international community for strengthening the values of solidarity and fraternity and also ukhuwah insania. I think also stressing about for respecting one another, support one another, yeah, based on the spirit of solidarity. Because without solidarity, I think it is not to be the character of human being anymore. Even now, majority in the metropolis city, the characteristic of people over there tend to become the individualistics. I agree with Dr. Noor just now, who said returning to the basic values, make harmonization human being with God, harmonization between human being with other human being, and also harmonization between human being with the nature or natural. Yeah, it is very, very important for us. Yeah. Thank you very much for all the presentation from the speaker who opened and stressing about the importance of the solidarity values. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Dr. Nur Hartanto, for your questions. Now, I will ask questions. Dr. Langpute, please start to respond for reminding us that we have about 15 minutes to respond those questions. So please organize your response to each questions. We will start from Dr. Langpute and then Dr. Zulfikar Amir, and then Dr. Noor, and the last one, Dr. Bagus, Romo Bagus. Please.
Yes, thank you very much, Pak Joseph. I would like to use just a very short time because I will give to some other speakers and also discussants to speak more because there is no direct question to me. But anyway, in terms of brothers from Tanzania asking about vaccines and the other brothers are asking more of it's about the conceptual, and I think the discussion Dr. Noor and Dr. Bagus and also Dr. Zulfikar may be able to answer that. But I just would like to drag your attention on vaccine. When I look at vaccines, you like it or not, you are about to go for vaccine or you disagree with vaccine or not. But vaccine is something which is comes with the historical dot of a pandemic with for those who believe in God. I mean, at least we were given the pandemic. At the same time, God is providing vaccines as a curing element to us. That's one thing. The second thing is that I would like to urge of myself and all of you to look at vaccination as from social perspective, rather than like a health perspective, or rather than looking at personal perspective. Because when we look at the social perspective, someone which disagree with vaccinating himself should reconsider, because once the immunity that happens because of once personal vaccination will have the contribution to the community immunity. So I'd like to say that when we are talking about vaccine, normally in the medical doctors or even health promoters, they were talking on the personal basis. But in fact, I'd like to look at vaccination from a social basis. So finally, it will help us to go through what we are talking today, that is a human solidarity. Thank you very much, Prof. Pak Joseph.
Thank you, Dr. Langpute. Now, Dr. Zulfikar Amir, please give your response.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. So I just want to respond to the questions about vaccination. Now, the reason why the COVID vaccine took a very short time to be developed and produced is because scientists around the world, especially in developed countries like in the United States, in UK, and also in Asia, actually have started developing vaccines for coronavirus, because COVID-19 is not the first coronavirus outbreak. Back in 2003, there was a SARS outbreak in China, which spread to a few other countries, but then it suddenly ended 4 months after it started. But then that's already triggered, not triggered, but already prompted a number of research centers in the world to start developing a vaccine for coronavirus. And when MERS, the Middle East respiratory symptom, emerged in the Middle East, I think in 2014 or 15, they continued developing the vaccines, but it was never actually completed. And in 2009, when COVID-19 started to break out, late 2019 and early 2020, these vaccine projects that were being carried out in a number of labs continue to be developed, and it's converted for MERS vaccine to COVID-19 vaccines because of the similarity of the virus characters, which is the coronavirus. So that's why it took a relatively short time for vaccine producers to develop vaccines and to distribute it around the world. Yeah, although we are seeing a huge number of COVID-19 production at the moment, unfortunately, 80% of the world supply is still controlled by developed countries like the United States, UK, Germany, and etc. So there's a inequality of vaccine distributions in the world, which is not good for everyone, because if there are countries that are not vaccinated yet, then it will become a threat to other countries. So it has to be done globally and at the same time and equally for everyone. And this is basically the principle: everyone is safe only until no one is safe until everyone is safe. So basically, that's the principle of vaccine distributions. And to respond to the questions about gotong royong, yes, I completely agree that gotong royong is one of the foundation of social capital, especially in Indonesian societies. But of course, gotong royong is not unique to Indonesia. Other countries have similar culture that motivate people to work together. And gotong royong, as I said, is the foundation of social capital. Plays an important role for disaster resilience, and in the context of pandemic, we are talking about the collaborations of individuals at the grassroots level to respond, to build up a collective responses to pandemic. But unfortunately, the thing is, the pandemic is a problem with a magnitude of scale. So the magnitude of the COVID pandemic requires not only responses at the grassroots level, but it has to be coordinated by the government, because the government has resources, the government has authority to coordinate the responses from everyone. The problem is that in some countries, including Indonesia, the government is not doing the job very well due to political or economic interests, or due to the lack of capability and competence in understanding the potential risk of COVID-19 virus. So this is what we are seeing in Indonesia since the beginning of the pandemic, where when especially at the early stage, when the government denied the existence of COVID-19 cases in Indonesia, and it continued to affect the ability of the government in responding to crisis. So I think this is something that we need to bring up. But going back to the point, yes, gotong royong is absolutely important, and we need to continue upholding this principle in order for us to be able to to stay resilient against the pandemic, especially at the community level. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sulfikar Amir. Now, Dr. Nur Sudiati, maybe you can respond question concerning local wisdoms, and also maybe you have a idea about local medicines and idea how we deal with Earth and our solidarity, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for Dr. Nur about your appreciated my article. Yes, we must keep a relationship for all to God, to nature, to other planet and other medicine, local medicine. Yes, so always in my family always drink what is ginger and rempah-rempah in Javanese.
If you
And
want to explore your idea in Indonesia, and we committee will help, Bu Nur?
yeah, I'm okay with traditional drinking. So in my family, I keep here. There are from drink the Javanese drinking from in Javanese is kunir asem, ginger, and all. Yes, and I think it's about gotong royong. So there is the values of the archipelago have universal value in line with the value of Pancasila. Pancasila when is we keep it, and the appreciation of this life. Kawulo Gusti Bawono in a Javanese concept. Hamamayu hayuning bawono, to keep a nature it, and manunggaling Kawulo Gusti relationship we and God. And so Bali marang sangkan paraning dumadi. So we back to God from nothing to nothing. There is it, and so thank you for your appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dong. Yeah, please, Romo Bagus.
All right, I just want to add something very brief about the importance of action that somebody has raised in the questions. I think one of the things that we learned during the pandemic is action is quite varied in terms of understanding. We know that now, in order to really respond adequately and together the challenge of pandemic, we need a diverse action. And we know also that we have to do actions in such a way that our action is not reactionary, but also long-term and deeper. So that's why I was talking about the importance of having this me time or solitude or a deeper spiritual transformation as one of the most significant actions during the pandemic. The pandemic can ruin our lives. And one of the most important actions here is to keep our sanity, to keep our spiritual life, our mental health in such a way that we can deal with the larger problems of the pandemic with creativity. So we have to have mental endurance. And so by action, we have to be more open to different kinds of action, even having this moment of rest, even having this moment of self deepening, you know, knowing thyself better, as philosophers used to say, is a very good action or dharma during this pandemic. And then we hope that coming out of this deep introspection, reflection on ourselves, on our society, on our relationship with God and our environment, we can deal with the pandemic in different ways, giving out, our financial help, involving ourselves in the different action platforms, online or offline. Gotong royong or jogotongo in Central Java is very popular. Taking care of our neighbors. Those are very laudable actions, but we should also not forget the kind of care for ourselves that is more integral, more positive, that is also part of integral action in or during the pandemic and afterwards as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Romo Bagus. Thank you all speakers and discussant for your presentation. Personally and on behalf of the committee, I thank you for your presentations to deliver powerful messages from your presentations. As a moderators, I'm sorry, I want to sorry if during this moderating the conference there's some or unexpected things during this conference and during my responsibility as a moderator. And I will give time to Mr. MC, Master of Ceremony, to continue our programs this afternoon. Again, thank you, Dr. Sukre Langpute. Thank you, Dr. Sulfikar Amir. Thank you, Dr. Romo Bagus Laksono. And thank you, Dr. Nor Sudiati. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joseph, for being the moderator for the third workshop for our global conference on fraternity. Before we close our workshop series for our conference, we would like to show you a short video. And that signifies the end of our workshop series. And lastly, we would like to say, despite the difference in our religion, race, or culture, our desires are the same. And that is living in a safe and peaceful world. Thank you very much for your dedication to the world peace. We hope to see you at the next conference and have a pleasant day. Thank you very much.